Let's go ahead and start talking about Chapter 8. Your book does a really good job of going through and talking about the core parts of basically internal controls. I'm not going to really talk about that too much. I'm really going to more talk about real life. Well, where to begin? All right, so I've worked at some great companies, and I've already named some before, but as my stories come through, I'm not going to give you the names of the others. But fraud is something that is very much prevalent in every company. And one of the most important things that finance people can do, us, is really put the controls in place so that people will not steal. And to eliminate the chance, or to reduce the chance of people want to steal our money in the first place. And we do that by we talk about controls and we implement stuff. The first thing I want to talk about is something called a three-way match. Now, most companies, I think you all will work with probably nowadays, they have a three-way match. Hey, kitty, I hear you. So with a three-way match, what we're doing is we're matching on something. So what will happen is somebody outside of finance, they'll go through and they'll say, I want to buy 100 units of, widgets at $1 each. So that effectively creates a purchase requisition. A finance person will come through and they will then approve that purchase requisition in order for it to turn into a purchase order. So that gives you two levels right there. You have a non-finance person requesting something, and then you have the finance person coming back through on the back end. Hold on, sorry. And you have the finance person coming back on the back end and being able to say stuff like, why do you need it? Tell me about it. Do you really need to buy this? Do you have to buy 100? Yada. Normally, the questions the finance person will ask is, are you sure you need 100? What about other vendors? That's because, what will happen is people will have their preferred vendors, right? The people they actually care a lot about. And what will happen? Sorry. What will happen, they'll have the people, their friends will have companies and such and so forth and all like that. And, sometimes they'll buy from their friends or friends of friends. Now, but the finance guy, your job is to go through and say, well, do you need 100? What about other vendors? You're paying $1 each. Is that high? Give me 3 requests, and we call them basically just requests, right? Go out, bid it, which means go out and find me at least 3 alternative vendors and come back to me with some prices. And what I'll do also is I would go into the plain old Google search, type it in to see if I can find it cheaper just by plain Google search. But anyway, finance guy, your job is to push back on what they're buying, or at least ask questions. Buying 100, you need 100. I'm going to buy it from such and such vendor. You have to buy it from that vendor. Give me 3 other alternative vendors, which might be cheaper. And if you decide to go to a different vendor than the cheapest one, tell me why. Because we always want to make sure we keep control, and more especially, do you have any relationship with that vendor? Because, well, heck, somebody might be starting up their own little marketing company and selling stuff to us. Finance, our job is to really push some controls in place and ask those questions. That really creates a purchase order. Now, once a purchase order is created, we'll go back through. This purchase order is then sent to the vendor, and the vendor, whatever, is going to say, okay, and the vendor sends back to me 100 units. Now, what will happen is the purchase order has a 3-way match. In the 3-way match, it goes on quantity, the number of units that you're receiving in, right? I requested 100, I'm getting 100 back. Cost on the original purchase order, it was $1, and I'm receiving, the amount that I'm paying is $1. And the third is really just based upon what it is. If I'm requesting little blocks, then I want, little blocks. If we have a deviation from that, whether you receive 101 or 98, or it's $1.05 instead of $1, this creates something called a purchase price variance, PPV, purchase price variance. And what that really means is that, well, there's a variance. Our perfect world is everything matches up exactly the way we want to on the purchase order. Life's simple, life's easy, life's great, but in most cases it doesn't. If I request 100 of these and they send me 95, Well, what that means is they need to either send me 5 more of these, or they need to send back to me to issue a credit to me for the value of 5 of these, because we care about our company. On the flip side, I think these cost $1. When they send them back to me, it makes the notation, hey, that it's 99 cents. Okay, I thought they cost $1. They said 99 cents. I paid them $1 because I thought it was $1. They're saying 99 cents. Well, I'm going to go directly back to them and say, look, I want a 1 penny for each of those 100 units. And granted, it's $1, but hey, honestly, I really wouldn't do it for $1, but significant amounts of money, I would. Probably anything more than $50, $100, something like that. Now, one of the cooler things though is purchase orders and called 3-way matching. The way this comes up in conversation is I work for a company, and the company was what they did. They got in. We had an accounts payable department. The accounts payable department came in. They had invoices, and they paid invoices. That was all they did. They didn't do a match on purchase order. They didn't do a match on bill of lading. They didn't do a match on really anything. An invoice came in, paid. Life is simple. So, it was very simple. Invoice came in. Somebody looked at it, scribbled their name on it for approval, and then it was paid and on the merry way. So life was good. Life was good. I noticed some charges hitting inside my, one of the revenue centers that I was over. It's like, wait, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't recognize this. It was only about $3,000, $5,000, minimal dollars. And it's like, nah, okay, fine. I'm not going to worry about it because, something, it's $3,000 in the scheme of hundreds of millions. Not a big deal. Second month, it was exactly the same. It's like another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Not too freaked out. It was busy. The next month, though, it's like $10,000, right? So I go down there to accounts payable. I'm like, hey, look, accounts payable, what's going on here? Tell me on this. The guy looks through and says, oh, I made a mistake. I'll fix it. I'm not saying people make mistakes. Not really super big deal or anything like that. A little bit later, very next month, I expect to see the total of those charges reversed out. Well, it worked. As a matter of fact, there's another $10,000 there. So I said, okay. So I went down there, grabbed the accounts payable person, and said, show me these invoices. So we're digging through the invoice, and he hands me the invoices, and they're fake. You can tell. They were just made. They were cheapy made. They was off a printer. I mean, there's no originality. There was nothing fancy or great about it at all. Just fake invoices. Again, and it's like, and if you go out there, anytime you want to find a basically a corporation, you can go out there and do a research. It's called Dun & Bradstreet, D&B. And if you do a Dun & Bradstreet and it's truly an incorporation, you can find the investors, you can find the owners, you can find the date of incorporation. I mean, you can really find everything. And it turns out that when I looked at all that, amazingly enough, it was the accounts payable person was getting invoices, making his own fake invoices, signing them for approval, and paying his own fake invoices and bringing the cash in himself. Pretty smart overall. Then he would have got away with it because, initially he would have gotten away with it because the dollar amounts are small. $2,000 to $3,000 on $100 million businesses, nobody really notices that, but he then exceeded, right? We went to $10,000, $12,000, and that was really where he made a mistake. Between you and me, if he had just left it at $3,000 for months on end, I probably would have never noticed, and he wouldn't be in jail right now. But that's not my fault because he stole funds. Your job as a finance person is to think about all these scenarios and put controls in place. In that one, once we establish the purchase order, never happen again. What'll happen, we required certain signatures to happen before anything before an invoice could be paid. It required review, but more so, we established a purchase order. The purchase order was established based upon this. Here's the criteria. If it met this criteria, life is good. It went ahead and paid. If it did not meet this criteria, it got rejected out, and the accounting manager was made away. It's not the only time, though. I found that multiple times. My absolute favorite story, though, was that when I was a plant controller, one thing that you want to do, there's two concepts as you are finance people I want you to think about. One is called zero-based bank accounts. And what that means is you create a bank account, one bank account, and you transfer, and this is mostly for payroll. So just think about in terms of payroll. You transfer only the amount of money that will cover this payroll, because you create the payroll, right? You prepare everything. You know, hey, the payroll is going to be $312,000. Well, you transfer exactly into this zero balance bank account $312,000. And as all the checks are being drawn off of it, that's perfect, because in the perfect theory, you put $312,000 in account. The checks that you have drawn is going to come out $312, and you'll be able to maintain zero in the account. Well, that's perfect, right? And the key, though, is going to be if there's anything left over or nothing left over, that's your problem, right? So, for example, if you went back through and you found there was $10,000 left in the account, what that simply means is somebody just didn't cash their check. And you can say, hey, because you know how much each check was, and you can see this one was cash, and this one was cash, and this one wasn't cash. You can say, hey, Bob Smith, you didn't cash your payroll check. I need you to go do that for me in the next 7 days, please. If you've lost it, please tell me, and I'll, void that one and send you another one, and go run and do it. But what will happen, though, if you have a negative balance, when you see a negative balance, that means somebody has altered their paycheck. So they went through, if it's $100, they've added a couple extra zeros, and there's a problem, right? Because you can't put in exactly the right amount. So when everything else came back out, put the exact right amount in, you have a zero balance or like negative there. Somebody has altered their check. Then it's a simple task just to simply go through all the checks, compare it to what you originally put on there, and you can find out who committed fraud. Pretty simple, pretty easy, and pretty fun. My other favorite was, and I've got more of these stories than I ever care to think about, and a couple of them almost have probably got me shot along the way. I won't tell you those good ones. But my other favorite is that what we did payroll for a warehouse, and every week we would do payroll. The warehouse manager would turn in hours for his associates. We would cut checks, and we would send this big stack of checks down with the warehouse manager. Warehouse manager would then give them out. That's great. And I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm like, well, it would be really cool just to really start putting names next to people, because it's always good to make that face-to-face and know who they are. So I said, okay, what we're going to do this time is I'm going to hand the checks out down there, just tell the people to stop by and bring me their ID, and I'll hand them the check, and life will be good, and, I'll get to put a name and a face, so when I walk down there, I can say, hey, hi, whatever. So people came, people brought their ID, everything was great, and there's four checks left over at the end of the day. I'm like, well, what about these people? Oh, well, they're just sick. Too sick, too on vacation. Okay, I get that, right? And then the warehouse manager's, well, I'll just hold on to them for you. No, I've already did this much effort. I might as well just finish it up, right? Next day, 2 people came who were on vacation. They got their checks. They brought me their ID. Life is great. That means I had 2 left over. And the day after that, the person came. It's like, hey, they come, got their check. Life is great. That leaves me with 1. Next day passed. So go down to the warehouse manager. Like, look, I don't know this guy. It's like he is. I got a check for him, but he's not come. Warehouse manager says, look, he's sick. Don't worry about it. I'll hand it to him. Like, no. We've already did all this. Let's do it right. I'll hold on till it comes. A couple more days pass. So I finally go down, to the warehouse. Like, look, what about this guy? Is he really this sick? I mean, if he is, just tell me and I'll drop the check out. And the people I'm talking to are like, oh no, this person left months ago. Of course, what had happened was the warehouse manager had still been putting down hours for this guy, and he was splitting it. He would give the check to the guy, and they would cash it. He would take half, and the other guy would take half. So the warehouse manager is making some little extra cash on the side. Of course, they fired him as well, and all that. People are smart. One thing I want you all to keep in mind as your finance people are very smart. If somebody looks at a problem long enough, they're going to find a way around it. If somebody wants to steal money, they're going to find a way to steal money. What we do as finance people, we think about it and how do we put controls in place to stop them from stealing money. Something to think about. This was more just a fun video. Like I said, your book does a really good job on internal controls. We'll talk in a few more minutes. All right, hope you enjoyed this video.